I have a dream where the powerful and the powerless will sit at the same table, where the haves will see the have-nots, not as burdens, but as brothers, where class will not divide us, but conviction will unite us. I have a dream that the oligarchs will remember we must all eat, that the brown-faced neo-colonialists will remember who they are and whose they are. I have a dream that fraternities will build beyond internal architecture into a national bond, that the walls of design will give way to the bridges of brotherhood, not a fraternity of symbol, but a brotherhood of substance. I have a dream that we remain focused, that we stay in our conviction and remain fearless, that we double down, fortified, to return this Bahamaland to the foundation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Foundation with Howard Grant. Grateful to be in your company. Always grateful to jam with you and talk to you about national issues, where we are. If you're just tuning in for the very first time, I'd like you to like and share. I'm not going to fight you. Let's make some things happen as we continue to be able to talk about what's happening around the nation and where we are as a collective, and being able to identify those things with transparency and without the pomp and pageantry, the kind of a fluffed posture and the fluffed hedging of political niceties that they continue to be able to spew in this day and this time. I'm Howard Grant, guys, and I'm grateful that you are here with us as we continue to be able to talk about these things and talk about where we are from that particular perspective. I want you guys to be able to hit me up. If you want to be a part of what we're doing, please hit me up. The numbers you can be able to find me on is 827-0111, 827-0111, as we continue to be able to jam with you and talk about where we are from a national standpoint and talk about growth and development from that particular standpoint. And hopefully that we're well. Oh, Lord, I see a bunks in red. Hopefully we're well. Oh, Lord, let me see. Mic check 1, 2. Is it too loud? I'm hoping that it doesn't pop your speakers. Hopefully we're well, and persons are kind of diving in and being a part of what we're doing. As we continue to be able to talk about these things, it is bananas. If you've been paying attention, it is absolutely bananas. Last night, the Prime Minister was essentially called to a space and sent some information out, sent some information around, indicating that the Prime Minister would have been a part of what we're doing. A town hall meeting that was held yesterday in Grand Bahama, and at the town hall meeting, you would have been able to see a lot of persons being able to set themselves up to talk about these things. First thing this morning, in fact, I got a call last night, and in that call last night, in the middle of the meeting, they were telling me about what was happening in the meeting and so forth and so on, and was asking me to be able to get some information as it relates to the entire proceeding, because Michael Pintard got booed, right? And I was like, oh, well, this expected. The Prime Minister's there, and I don't know why Michael Pintard did that, but it is sort of expected. This is my mind. As I'm looking at these particular things, I'm really trying to make a determination as to whether or not this is something that is warranted. This is something that is, is it politically motivated? What are we hearing? What are we seeing from that particular perspective and that standpoint? And as I look at this, right? As I look at this, first thing this morning, hold on, let me see if I can send this, right? Let me save this. Let me save this. Now I can let you know where this was sent. So the Prime Minister would have been invited to these particular things, right? He was invited. They sent the information. The Prime Minister was invited. He was invited to come to these things, right? Guys, you can see me manipulating my system as we go out here. Hopefully my WhatsApp's still connected to this thing, right? And we could be able to do that. Now, let's be clear about these things. Let's identify these things and let's be able to talk about it. I'm looking for my WhatsApp so I can be able to show you the picture of where the Prime Minister would have been invited to this particular space, right? Now, you could see that. I guess you could see it on my phone. But I can try to be able to pop it up on there to see whether or not we can be able to get the PM. I can try to open this up for you so we can see if we can get it, right? The Prime Minister was invited to this space. Let me read it for you. Town hall meeting, clearing the air in Grand Bahama on the arbitration ruling in 2026. Terrence Gape is going to be there. Gregory Moss is going to be there. Ernie Wallace is also going to be there. It's going to be Monday night, March 9th at 7 p.m. And the Prime Minister, Philip Brave Davis, has been invited and has accepted the invitation. So he's going to be there also. So this is the information that has been circulated essentially about what to expect when you come to this sort of a meeting, right? So this information circulated, went around, talked about these particular things. And as they talked about it, this information came to me from yesterday. I got this information yesterday around midday when the show started. Then, whilst I was talking yesterday to you on the foundation, this information came to me. Now, I didn't read the entire thing when it initially came to me. But, I got a call to say that I wasn't supposed to have a show last night on the rundown. And so they called me and tell me, Howard, no show tonight. Then they called me back and say, Howard, there's a show tonight. So I said, well, you just tell me there's no show tonight, right? I'm all the way out east, right? I was doing some stuff. I was all the way out east. And so they said, no, Howard, there's no show tonight. There's no show. There's a show tonight, but there's no show on Tuesday night, which is tonight. So I said, okay, do you do a show tonight? She said, yeah, no problem. And so we called, Lincoln Bean was supposed to come with me, so he did come. And even though it was sort of the last minute after they canceled and it's back on, we found ourselves going to the show last evening. But then information came about and they started to talk about these particular things and how things were happening around. And in the midst of doing that, this happened. Michael Pintard, now I can't show you the visual, but you can easily go up on Facebook and find that. That's no difficulty to that at all. But if you look at this, let me see if I can find it for you. Let me see. Okay, I sent it on my next phone. If you listen to this, I am a little taken back. I don't understand why Michael Pintard did this. I keep trying to be optimistic as I look at these things and I say that this is peculiar. I say that traditional politicians would not have done this. You know what I mean? Like I try to give him the benefit of the doubt of being cutting edge and being sort of being able to pave his own path and doing all these particular things. But I ain't getting looking for no booze. Talk to me. I'm not going to look for booze. I'm not going to look for booze. And she feel booze like she bombed at a bar. It's Kanye, right? I'm not looking for no booze, baby. I'm just not going to look for booze. I'm not going to look for booze. I just want to be very clear. As I look at these particular things, and then I open this thing up, right? I open it up, and I said, Jesus, Lord Almighty, I can't believe this man went here for this. You could hear it from the audio standpoint. Now, this is from Eyewitness News, and I want you to hear it.
Bahamians, primarily licensees of the port and others, and there should be a mechanism where those individuals can be elected. I do not believe and do not share the view that central government,
everything he's saying is absolute garbage. Everything that he's saying is absolute garbage. I just want to be very clear with you. I don't want to be able to kind of stir you up or anything like that. Everything that he's saying in terms of the mechanism associated with whether or not the Port Authority should be elected to these strategic positions on their board, so forth and so on, is absolute garbage. How I decide to run my company after I'm licensed by the government of the Bahamas has nothing to do with the government of the Bahamas. My responsibility is to ensure that I pay my taxes based upon the obligations that I've made, contractual and otherwise, that state in terms of rules and regulations for this. In terms of being able to identify them viewed in one sense or another to be able to satisfy and appease the superficial aspect of being able to identify these things is absolute garbage. You think Rupert them and Rupert Hayward them and all of them gonna let you do, excuse me? You think Sarah and Rupert can talk with anything but, yeah, vote me out. You crazy? The families have a responsibility to make a determination as to exactly what's happening. The families have that responsibility to stand. If you can stand up and say, now listen, if the family decide to be able to vote internally within their caucus to make a determination who is going to sit at the helm during this particular state, they set their own guidelines, they set their own rules, regulations that govern them, and they said, this is who's going to do this at this time. How you can go tell Milo Butler them what to do? How you can do that? It's Milo Butler them business that ain't got nothing to do with me.
Should be in control of the city of Freeport. You can, in fact, make sure that more of us in this room are involved in the governance.
Garbage. Again, absolute garbage. And this thing got nothing to do with no FNM or no PLP. This is garbage. Garbage. You can, in fact. How can you, in fact? How can you, in fact? How can you? How can you, in fact? In theory, you can. In fact, how? How can you, in fact, change the governance, the structure, rules, regulations that govern these people? How can you, in fact, change how these particular things happen? How? How can you, in fact, do this? Not in theory, not in concept, not this sort of a hyperbolic, not hypothetically. How, in fact, can you do this? How? How, Sway? How? How?
Of Freeport, but at the same time, we do not destroy the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. And let me explain.
Absolute contradiction. Absolute contradiction. In fact, in the event that you seek to be able to merge, fuse, forge a different concept without being able to destroy the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, the principles of that particular concept, which is the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, must still stay alive in some variation in this amendment, in this sort of appendix that exists in this particular space. Come on, man. This annexed position? Yeah. They're going to have to make a determination how to ensure that we keep those things within the ramifications of that. How can we? How can we? Hold on. Now let's see what he get booed for. Let's watch what he get booed for.
At the same time, we do not destroy the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, and let me explain why.
You know, this is an exhausting experience for me because it's so hard. It's so hard. It is so hard for me to talk to you like this. I got to do this. I got to be decent with you and talk to you like this. But this is disappointing to me. I keep trying to explain to you that the Prime Minister's position was not the eradication of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. That the bend or break speech was not the opposition to business and its evolution, growth, expansion in Grand Bahama. The bend or break speech had to do with the importance of significant influence and infusion. The bend or break speech soul was inclusion. The bend or break speech had to do with how do we incorporate? How dare you ignore, reject, and deny those that exist in this particular space? How can you relegate a grouping of people? Now remember, see, I got to be like this with you, and I got to have this kind of a conversation. The bend or break speech did not speak to rejection and denial. The bend or break speech had to do with inclusion. It had to do with the proper inclusion and incorporation and significant recognition of those particular persons who had their literal sweat and blood in the game. But now we want some skin in the game also. We put our sweat and blood into, our sweat equity was already into this. We developed Grand Bahama. Now there should be an opportunity for us to be able to sit at the boards or being able to have access to these things or whatever the case may be. That was not afforded us. Whatever contractual agreements are distributed, whatever things that are happening around the city, their black people should be afforded an opportunity to be able to access that. This is what the bend or break speech was about. The bend or break speech had nothing to do with the eradication of whites or blacks or this sort of this negative connotation associated with whether or not business should exist in here. The bill was already signed. The concept was already signed. The bend or break speech had to do with being able to recognize that there is a power and authority that exists over this country. After the bend or break speech, we ain't hear nothing but the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. We ain't hear nothing but the government. We ain't hear nothing but the fusion of those particular two entities. They sat separate and apart for decades. 69, 10, 79, 10, 89. 20 years, 2 decades. And then they started to kind of bubble up to the surface when they saw 1990. Hubert Ingram found himself involved. They found themselves being able to identify someone who had skin in the game. Cecil Wallace Whitfield had just passed away during this particular time, 1990 to 1992. After he would have passed away, strategically finding himself right in the proper position, being able to forge alliances, forge relationships necessary to be able to get himself over with the UBP is what Hubert Ingram did. I'm sick and tired of y'all cringing every time I call Hubert Ingram's name. This is what history has said to us. This is what history has said to us. I didn't say this. This ain't my story. This is his story. This ain't my story. This is his story. I didn't bring this up. I didn't create this concept and idea. This is his story. His story. His story. Not mine. His story. As we identify these things and we talk about this, Hubert Ingram found himself nestled in the position of being able to sit in the hornet's nest, or whatever color these particular hornets be, the Caucasian hornets, whatever, I don't know. And this is not to be disparaging or being able to talk about those people. I know that I have people who are of a lighter hue that watch me, but this is history. And I'm not diminishing the history for these particular things, and not for the desire in this day and age to be able to align ourselves with some segregation that existed yesterday. Damn, it's done, it's done, it's done. And this is the proper eradication. It's nothing worse than hitting down a wasp nest and leaving a little piece of bud that stayed there. They will build another wasp nest right there. You got to get rid of, you got to eradicate every part of that. You got to scrape it off the wall. And this representation is the scraping that we've been looking for. So I don't want to talk like this. This administration is seeking to scrape that last stem associated with segregation and the rejection of locals outside of a tokenized position. That's what's happening. You've accepted this position as a token. We need your black skin in this place. So we give you a little plate. Y'all don't want to hear this, man. Y'all don't want to hear this. Let's be clear about this and have a clear conversation about what's happening here. This is not a casual thing. This is going to be clear, and this is going to be this. Michael Pintard is smart enough to know that there's lines drawn in the sand. He's smart enough to know that there's lines drawn in the sand. Thank you. Michael Pintard is smart enough to know that there's lines drawn in the sand. He's no dummy. He's no dummy. Let's just be very clear about this. He's no dummy. Michael Pintard knew that as he stood up last night, he had to align himself with one person or another. He did everything that he possibly could. Sorry. He did everything that he possibly could to be able to acknowledge his position and potential position as leader of the central government of the Bahamas and still be able to keep intact his relationship with the Port Authority and the Free National Movement's relationship with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. He did everything he could do. Everything that he could imagine, he tried to put on the table last night. And as soon as he as soon as he pivoted to be able to indicate that we can still be able to find the top of my throat back, I think it's a sinus thing. I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand what's going on. Anyway. As soon as he aligned himself, and as soon as he opened his mouth and started to be able to talk about that, the lines in the sand was drawn. You can't teeter on two sides. You can't be a flip-flopper. You can't be like Kerry. You got to be able to stand on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence. You can't be on the edge here and teetering on the side like this. You can't do this kind of a thing here. You got to stand on it and firm and make a determination as to whether or not you're going to be able to be strong on the east or strong on the west. You got to be left or right of this. You cannot. You get spewed out. You're trying to be lukewarm. You get spewed out, and this is what happened to you last evening. What happened is that you were spewed out in your position, at least in your convictions, and being able to align yourself with the Free National Movement and the Port Authority simultaneously. People would know where you stand. People would know where you stand. I got a call, and they said to me, Howard, but there was a PLP event. Okay, I could tell you one thing. Let's just be very clear about me. And somebody tag this and send this around. If Hubert Ingram was there last night, every FNM in Grand Bahama would have been there last night. If they whispered that Hubert Ingram was going to be at this town hall meeting last night, every FNM would have been there last night. If Hubert Minnis would have been there last night, the support that he would have gotten out there last night would have been tremendous. Just saying, Hubert Ingram, Hubert Minnis coming, boom. There are people that would show up that naturally support these men. Michael Pintard, I made to understand because I didn't watch the entire show tonight with the information. Like I said, there's not going to be there's no rundown tonight, so you can be able to watch the entire town hall this evening at 8:00. You'll be able to watch the entire town hall this evening at 8:00. If Hubert Ingram was there, the place would have been booked right out with FNMs. If Hubert Minnis was there, the place would have been booked right out with FNMs. All people who support Minnis, who used to be FNM, however you want to look at that. Michael Pintard tell the Prime Minister, welcome to Marco City in his constituency, and he get booed in his constituency. Michael Pintard is there, the Prime Minister is in there, you an FNM country, and FNMs didn't show up. They didn't close the gate like Morgan Freeman. Close the gate, close the gate. They didn't close the gate like Morgan Freeman. The gate was wide open. Anyone could come in. I saw a couple of red shirts in there. They dropped their head and said, Jesus, Lord Almighty, what happened? I'm watching the things that people send me and what I identify. And in the midst of watching those things, I recognized that some things happened. Michael Pintard chose a fight that don't belong to him. And I asked myself a couple questions, Now, Michael, you may not like this, but I got to ask myself these questions, and I got to be able to talk about it. And maybe you're wrong, and maybe it don't make sense, and maybe you fight me, maybe you cuss me, or whatever the case may be. But I just need to understand why you fighting this fight. Why you fighting this fight? Because of your position and capacity as the head of the organization. Why are you fighting this fight? Why are you fighting this fight? Many instances that the PLP would have found themselves in the position being able to railroad a position that the Free National Movement has taken when they found themselves back in governance. Many times. And every time that they've been able to identify whether that has been a contractual agreement, whether that has been a concept, whether that has been an approach, whatever it is, the person who was the architect had responsibility for those particular things. Normally, if it was such a sore thumb and a sore topic from a social standpoint, you would normally hear the architect stand up and speak with clarity to why this particular thing happened. And that architect, for the most part, has been Hubert Ingram. Hubert Ingram would provide you with clarity because he has all his faculties about him. He is not senile. He's not out here doubting and being able to come. He don't come and go. He is clear, crystal clear. And one of the other persons who I just want to be able to hit you up with, I met this gentleman by the name of Edmund Lewis last night, former superintendent of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And 89 years old. 89 years old. This man looks 69. All his faculties about him. All. He can remember names and places and spaces and all these things. That is an amazing thing. It was amazing. Met him last evening. I've been to get my phone fixed. Hubert Ingram has all of his faculties about him. He has all of it. He is sharp as a tack. Hubert Ingram is sharp. And whenever there was any time that the PLP sought to be able to identify something and scrutinize, criticize, identify some concepts that he would have done, some bill, something that he would have done from a social standpoint. And there was sort of a social sore thumb around it. Hubert Ingram would stand from the back of the class, in the back of the room, and speak with clarity to that matter. Clarity. Hubert Ingram has never been afraid of a microphone. Never. He stood up and spoke with clarity to the matter. Anytime, historically, we could check the record. Hubert Ingram would come and set the record straight for all the social jolting, all the social fencing back and forth, being able to tag one person with a poke and tag another person with a poke. Hubert Ingram stood up historically and brought clarity to the matter. Can I get an amen? I can't get no amen. Amen? Hubert Ingram. I have not seen Hubert Ingram say a mumbling word. I can't get no amen, Jesus. Hubert Ingram is say a mumbling word. Nothing, he said. Zero, zilch, nada, nothing. Mum's the word. Even with the nomination as a Free National Movement whilst Michael Pintard sits at the helm, even with this determination as to whether or not they should be able to contest a by-election during a particular time, a sensitive time in the country's position, we would have heard, whether formal or otherwise, Hubert Ingram had a particular position. Even when Minnis sat in the position and Hurricane Dorian happened and all these particular things happened, he went and looked for his friend Perry Christie, jump on a golf cart. Him and Perry Christie drive around, call the media, and give out water, and then had an interview and say, "Well, I don't hear from Dr. Minnis." Eager, desirous, longing for the opportunity to be able to represent, to articulate, to speak, and give his knowledge of experience to this particular matter. Eager, Hubert Ingraham has always been eager to be able to speak. Perry Christie, not so much. Perry Christie speaks when he's spoken to, and he speaks when there is an objective to be able to find himself in the position of leadership. Let's just be very clear. When he wants to be able to vie for something, he needs to remind you of his articulation, of his pizzazz, of his charm. And so he does these particular things. Let's be very clear about this. Okay? Not Hubert Ingraham. Hubert Ingraham wants to set it straight to let you know, I am smart. I'm smart. Hubert Ingraham needs to set it straight to let you know that I'm smart. I'm smarter than you. I made this decision. I know why I did what I did. If you want to know something, ask me. I will tell you why I did that. I want to know why you didn't collect any money in 1994. I want to know why you've identified that $500,000 to be sort of a stamp deal within those particular years. I want to know why you didn't create an escalator to ensure that you can be able to always be paid in these particular areas. I want to know why you did not ever be able to revisit this particular opportunity as it relates to a meeting to make a determination of the next steps. I want to know why you ain't saying nothing right now. I want to know why. I want to know why you have shoveled Michael Pintard into a space where he doesn't know whether or not you play and you waltz in this or this is a tango. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. This is not his territory. Michael Pintard shares, I think he has a good relationship. Like most FNMs, they have good relationship. There's not that I don't know whether the Port Authority takes care of anybody individually as it relates to their campaigns. That's not what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you, Michael Pintard has a good relationship with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. And the Grand Bahama Port Authority has not been malicious to Michael in any way in the past. And if we're going to be very clear and honest with this, Michael doesn't know the future. Outside of his hopes and aspirations to preserve life, Michael doesn't know the future. He doesn't know whether or not there's victory ahead or whether there is another defeat. Because we would have seen the defeat that he was presented with as it relates to the 2 by-elections that was called during his cycle. That defeat belongs to Michael. That defeat belongs to Michael. How can we say that? Because Hubert Ingraham separated himself significantly from that and indicated to you what I told him not to go. He needed to let you know that for the record, Hubert Ingraham is a smart man. He's not a dummy. He's a smart man. He understands history. He's been here long enough. He's not worried about what the good old boys say and the old boys say around the restaurants and all these particular watering holes. And he's not worried about that. He worries about what is etched in time and history about him. He's worried about that. He's concerned about that. He puts it on the record to make you to understand whether or not he supports or whether or not he denies. Let's be clear about this. Clear. Let's be clear about this. Hubert Ingraham decided to be able to separate himself from this issue. Now, if he shows up and pops up and speaks to these particular issues, is after much deliberation. After much deliberation, and even at the social flogging of his current leader of the Free National Movement, Michael Pintard. That's a flogging that happened last night. He was flogged. I don't care what nobody's, there's a bunch of PLP in there. Well, why he couldn't get his own people to come on there? Why he couldn't get his own people to come in there? Anywhere I go, I used to have at least 20 DNA people with me. These DNA people, we was broke, we ain't had nothing, all the girls. One thing we could have had is makeup and green shirt. That's it. They had makeup and we all had green shirts. We may not have had no gas in the car, but we moving. 20 of them. Every single time, 20 of them moving. 20 of them moving. And we identify this. And we're going to be able to be very clear about this. Let's be clear about it. There's no excuses for why you couldn't bring your people with you last night. There's no excuses for why you couldn't bring your people with you last night. You get booed in front of the Bahamas. In Freeport, in what you call your constituency. I cannot get no amen. Someone say something to me. This is your constituency. I cannot get an amen. Happy International Women's Day. This is all over the newspaper. If I forgot to tell you, what about just national women? Do we give them like well, anyway, Happy Women's Day. My God. This is a crazy thing. This is a crazy thing. I listened to Michael Pintard. There's so much of this that I have not played. Let's see if we can play a little bit more. But it's just a disappointing thing to me.
We believe that you have an opportunity. We believe that you have an opportunity to do something completely different than what the families have done. Completely.
They tapping him on his shoulder, tell him he gotta leave. They say, come, step down. He say, no, I got this. No, I got this. You can't see it, so I gotta tell you.
The people of Freeport can, in fact, govern the city of Freeport in collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce, central government.
He's frustrated now.
I get these nickels and
Frustrated now. He frustrated. I'd like to tell you that it ended there, but it did not. I'd like to say to you that it ended there, but it did not. Somebody was trying to call in. I didn't see you. Say, Howard, if it was a PLP event, why go there? If they're saying that it's a PLP event, advising. Hold on. I told you all I hit that. I got to do it like how my mothers do it. She's put at the edge of her nose like this. I don't know why. This is Howard. Whoever is advising Pintard want him to fail. And if Freeport is F&M country and they post to pack the hall to support their leader, what that shows me is that he don't have the support of all the F&Ms and that the base still sleeps and is divided. That's my little reading glasses I get. I'm getting older. Praise Jesus. Howard, the town hall was telling the newspapers are framing it as if he was just booed for nothing. Those people rejected him and what he said. He said, you're right, Howard. They ain't coming out for Pintard. They say, thank you, Howard. These newspapers are making it seem as like it was a PLP rally. The reporter last night said that there was also F&M supporters there, but clearly they wasn't loud enough. Let's see, clearly. But clearly they wasn't loud enough, clearly. Listen to me, man. let's be clear for all of whoever watching me and whoever gonna watch this in the future. This fight is not between FNM or the PLP. This fight is between right and wrong. This fight is the eradication and the pulling down of the proverbial veil that separated those of us in Grand Bahama from the economic activity that happened right a stretched hand away. And we were not involved. The fight is happening to be able to revive Grand Bahama and to make the people to understand the importance of being able to pour into that. The reason why you did not see, and we got to be able to answer this. I got someone calling me in. Hold on. This look like this pot. Let's get it. Hey, good afternoon. How you doing?
Hello?
Welcome to the foundation. What's happening?
Hi, I saying hi, but hi, how are you?
What's up, man? Everything good?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I watched most of the town hall last night, and I don't know why they're framing this because remember when Mr. Pintar went up on the stage, and he was very cordial with the Prime Minister, but he leveled that accusation about the Prime Minister orchestrating this whole town hall, being the person behind this town hall.
I didn't watch the whole thing. Tell us about it. I didn't watch the whole thing. I only watched the clips that they sent me.
Yeah. First and foremost, CRM, if you're going to call it, you did an excellent job last night. And with the question that he asked, it was CRM was very good. I liked what he had to say in reference to.
I got some calls and say that they were surprised at how good he was.
Yes, he was very, very, very excellent. And the question that he asked, it led to a very
They also told me that Gregory Moss was extremely articulate and he broke it down for everybody to understand.
Yes, and but he his composure, everything, he was really, really good as well. He broke it down.
Yeah.
But back to Mr. Pintar. Now he came up, I guess on the stage, his comfort zone, being on the stage. And he took over the podium.
I smiled when they told me this because he was on the floor and he injected himself on the podium. Go ahead.
Oh no! He stepped up on that stage.
He went up on the stage to get booed. Oh, Jesus!
Joan Davis Rooney, they had to back up.
Joan Davis.
I got this. Let me say what I have to say. But anyway, so I mind you, I said, let me listen and see what he has to say, because he is not from Grand Bahama, but he is a part of Grand Bahama now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I listened to him, and mind you, he was on just listening, and the persons, they were out then bothered, I guess, with the little mumblings, but they were listening to him. Everyone, because you want to hear what the alternative leader of the country has to say. Anyone with good sense would listen to what an opposition, a person's, especially a leader, has to say. But he was saying, I guess, in his mind, good ideas, and it's in reference to, with just what you played back with this group of persons, Chamber of Commerce, the people of Grand Bahama, Freeport working together and all of this. But when he went and said the part about you should not or whatever, don't have to get rid of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement.
That was it.
And let me explain why. So in the back of his mind, he knew what he was about to say was going to be controversial.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have attached right
But guess
away
what?
and let me explain.
He had to say that.
Right, so how could I don't, like I said, I always call you sometimes in reference to this particular issue, because I need, I always need clarity or understanding as to how do you attach to you, would you join the two? Because he was knocking the families. He was saying, as far as with the families at the Port Authority, in other words, or you can correct me if I heard wrong. Did he not say, as far as we don't need them, they don't have to be a part of it?
No, what he was saying is that there could be an inclusion. These families don't have to hold the reins, from what I heard, right? And then he started to talk about this inclusion. and how we here can all be able to be a part of this, which is absolute garbage. That's not how it works. That's not how it
But
works.
how could you not? Right, but how could you do like what he says? That was his ideal plan, but still hold on to the Hawksville Creek agreement. That's where I don't understand what he's saying. He sounds mixed up, more mixed up than I am. You understand? And
Yeah.
I am disappointed in that fact because I am
But
disappointed
don't be
because
disappointed though. He
he
had to
should
do that.
know.
He has the obligation and responsibility of being able to do that. There is a relationship that the Free National Movement has, specifically in Grand Bahama, with I gone over this for the past 4 or 5 shows, right? The Free National Movement, which is at its core the UBP, has a relationship with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The Free National Movement, after 1969's Bend No Big speech, and the little black prime minister insulted those particular persons who would have been elevated in our society in the front of guests, which was oil tycoons from the United States of America, with the opening of Borco. They have never forgotten that. They have never forgotten that. And so you've heard nothing almost 2 decades, 89 until 87 to 89 from the organization and from the Free National Movement being able to find their footing and their strength. When they got into Grand Bahama and people were, you remember this now, let's be very clear about this. Grand Bahama in Nassau. When you was fighting in Nassau for liberty, access, opportunity, shutting down the bridge, doing all these things, burning things down, Grand Bahamian people was working on the Port Authority project. That's it. They was working on the Port Authority project. Listen to me, my grandmother never tell me a story about tribulation that happened in Nassau. Never. My grandfather, them, as much as they like politics, their politics has always been local. And it had to do with what was happening around us, never what's happening around the country. Remember this, the Freeport News used to come out in the evening. My daddy worked there for years. So whatever happened already didn't happen. We only were separate and apart, and the Freeport News was syndicated by the Grand Bahama Port Authority. So what stories that you didn't want to hear would never make the papers. Never make the papers. Okay?
Okay.
So we were void of this information that was happening in Nassau until I came to Nassau, educate myself, understood these things, start studying these things, sit down in the library for the longest time, interview people, go and talk with people, and I realized that why the hell they hate the PLP so bad? I couldn't understand it. And I realized the conditioning of the people in the mindset was simply because of the base of the UBP that exists at the core of the Free National Movement. Michael Pintard he has to, despite the lines that's drawn in the sand, he has to align himself with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. He has to, for more than one reason.
He has to see, but I think he has to he's walking such a tightrope in this whole situation because you say I agree with what you're saying, right? Because of the history and everything else, and how that Grandmama and Freeport is situated. However, with the little short man who with the Band of Braid speech originally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you have another short man doing something almost to he's shaking up the whole status quo, right?
Mm-hmm.
When the ruling came down last week or whenever it came down,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Pintas sent out a statement. And after he sent out that statement, the majority of the press that I heard or it seemed as if persons were more on board or they were happy and satisfied with when they got the real story, the full story, I should say, right? And they appreciated what the Prime Minister did. Now, fast forward to present day, you have Mr. Pintard now seemingly accepting this, but the way he's framing it and saying that they're going to go after all monies owed by the port or whoever owes the Bahamian people or Grand Bahama monies, right? Wasn't he aware that all of this money was owed for a long time? You understand, to take this position now, and then what he wants to do, and sometimes we on both sides, we as a people, we have to understand and appreciate is the word I want to say. when something is good for the country and not always lean towards this political stance or this, you understand? We have to appreciate when it's time to actually stand as a united front. And I think only when and if we ever are able to do this, a lot of persons, who would try us, they'll think,
Go ahead, Pat. What you said?
yeah, they'll think twice before they go ahead and try whatever that. One more thing I want to say before I go, Mr.
Go ahead.
Thompson,
Go ahead.
What's his name? Thompson,
Quasi
David
or
Thompson,
David? David.
Oh no, Tracy Thompson. Tracy Thompson was trying to get a moment, but they cut the mic off him, right? But Mr. Thompson, yeah, they cut the mic, but definitely man supporters out there,
I saw them.
They are crazy. Yeah, but you have to organize and make sure go early and plan ahead, get your game up. So not to say but use the excuse that it was a setup and it was a political rally. It was like a town. It was a town hall. But Mr. Thompson, kid, you heard this? What do you have to say? Did you?
I listened to a little piece of it this morning on Eyewitness News about being able to talk about what the FNM has done in the city of Freeport, and he should be ashamed to say that. I might as well tell you the truth, because
they say they support this. They support this. So he said he speaks for the FNM, and they support this ruling, and they support all of this stuff because Mr. Ingram did do this in 1994.
Yes, he did.
And
David Thompson was a part of that.
They support this, right? He was saying that last night. So I don't so all of this pushing back and more or less seemingly supporting the ruling.
So there is a divide yet again in the Free National Movement.
Something is
we see Hubert Ingram say that he doesn't support this. We haven't seen any of the Free National Movement members who were part of the old guard say that they don't support this particular thing. The government is owed money.
Mr. Ingram, I think what Mr. Ingram is going to probably do at their convention, he may speak or he may come and do an interview. I think he will speak. I think he's going to have something to say on this particular. I think what he's trying to do is give Mr. Pintard the respect as the leader of the opposition.
But he never do it before. All of a sudden now he giving him respect.
Because right now Mr. Pintard got booed last night, and he got mashed right up last night. And he's a little off right now, he's a little shaky. And the only person that really can help Mr. Pintard right now as far as with setting things more like, giving him a little more level on those training wheels is Mr. Ingram. And they're using Mr. Ingram right now to try to because he's trying to become the prime minister of the Bahamas, of this country. So he needs Mr. Ingram in his last, in the twilight of his years, to come out and try and assist.
Wow.
And I think it's going to be interesting. And before I go, who's that gentleman? You can give me some information on him. The Caucasian gentleman, I forgot his name. He was on the panel last night. He spoke.
Eddie Wade, I think Wade or something like that. Yeah.
Is he a writer for?
I can try to get all of them interviewed. I can try to interview all of them, especially Gregory Morse. Right? They floating all kind of information about Gregory Morse. I can do that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. You too, my dear. Good to talk to you. All right, guys. Hit me up 827-0111 if you want to be able to be a part of the conversation. 827-0111 if you want to be able to be a part of the conversation. Let's see. I got a couple more texts. It says, right, Howard, do you think that Moss will be the AG if the PLP returns to government? I'm seeing people floating that now and saying that him and Brave always had a great relationship despite the former tensions with the PLP. I think the former tension existed more specifically with Perry Christie. Right, he said Pintard started off good, and then he went off the rails. This is a couple things that's coming in. Right, his name is Terrence Gapes. Terrence Gape. Right, so I'll be able to get Mr. Terrence Gape to be able to sit with us so we can talk about these things and find out exactly what's what. Now, let's just be very clear about these things now. Y'all don't like to be able to put history where it's supposed to be. Hubert Ingram ain't say nothing. Pat say that because it's training wheels. Pat, you need to stop. This is why I got training wheels. Pat say because it's training wheels on and on. Pat is too much. Let's go. I got the next telephone call coming in. Thanks so much for calling the foundation. It's good to have you. Anton, what's up?
Oh, what's going on, bro?
Everything good, man. What's happening with you?
Right on, man. Right on. Before I get into anything what I want to say, let me ask you one question. Based on something I heard you said, I'd like to know from your perspective, how do you feel the Grand Bahama Port Authority has won as it relates to the ruling of the arbitrators?
I don't think that the Grand Bahama Port Authority has won anything. I think that the partial ruling that the Prime Minister has indicated is a ruling that actually leans in the favor of the government of the Bahamas, indicated that they are owed something. Even if the government has taken on the wrong formula, that's all this is. This is the wrong formula in terms of identifying what is being owed to the government since the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. The modified formula of being able to understand what is in this dispensation and this time and what should be owed or what we could be able to glean from is the 1994 modified agreement, and that kind of a position that should have been able to be taken from there. If David Thompson has indicated that we understand this, Hubert Ingram did sign this, and these things, you can't lie with the thing on the paper. It's on the paper. They've already signed these things, and I don't believe that there is victory for them. Now, they could smile now, but he who laughed last get the best laugh. Like, and be honest and be clear.
Let me interject now.
Go ahead.
Let me interject. Well, okay, so we are in alignment now with regards to what you are expressing as it relates to if the Port Authority has won anything. They did not win anything. As a matter of fact, they have lost. They have lost more in the arbitrator's ruling. They have lost more than they actually bargained for. And the government simply approached the matter of assessing the liability using the wrong clause. That is it. So all this is delayed gratification. The last time I called your show was the day that I had called and spoke with Chivago on his show. And everything that I've expressed from my thinking, listening to the Attorney General, Ryan Pinder, the Honorable, listening to the Prime Minister, the Honorable, listening to the leader of the opposition, the Honorable, listening to all of their remarks, right? And following the letter of the law as the Attorney General expressed, and coming to my own conclusions. I've heard everything regurgitated, And so Howard, I'm saying that something you said just now in your explanation, right? I wanna target on. But listen, Howard. Last night there was wrong that took place in terms of the manner in which the leader of the opposition and another caucus colleague of his, Crazy Thompson, they were wrong in the approach that they took, right? Because the person who was the moderator set out the boundaries under which persons were to speak. He said that you ask a question and you take no more than 1 minute, right? And the host of that, what was it?
Town hall.
The town hall were very gracious in entertaining and accommodating and allowing for the dialogue to extend the way it did, right? And I'm happy that they did, because if they didn't, today the newspapers would have been crying victimization, and they would have been crying unfair practices and all sorts of nonsense, right? But they did not, I'm certain they did not acknowledge the wrong that was done by the leader of the opposition. But nonetheless, Howard, nonetheless, I really appreciated the way the moderator, as the leader of the opposition spoke, he was addressing the crowd and letting them know that this is democracy and we show each other respect. It's democracy, Howard. We show each other respect. We allow each other to communicate. We listen to what each other have to say. And then we either agree or we disagree. That was the complete and absolute right approach to take. I also appreciated listening to the Prime Minister, right? The Prime Minister expressed that after he listened to his legal colleague at the bar, Crazy Thompson, speak.
Who said he was
expressed
in
that-
a bar? He was a lawyer for 30 years.
Yeah, he expressed that he was constrained to respond, right? But nonetheless, in using his wisdom and his judgment, he gave a response which was overwhelmingly, absolutely on solid ground. Because if you are starting a discussion and you cannot identify what are the agreeables, automatically your discussion will go nowhere. Your discussion will go nowhere. Howard, Brother Moss,
Gregory Moss. Yeah.
Greg Moss, he did an exceptional job
Yeah.
last night in leading off the conversation and seeking to set the tone for the conversation, but also in his closing remarks, ending his contribution on the night. He did an exceptional job because, Howard, the bottom line is this. After all of the arguments and the disagreements and whatever you may have to say, if anyone in this country who calls themselves Bahamian can try to beat down in a negative way the Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Brave Davis, right? And the government of the Bahamas for challenging the Grand Bahama Port Authority at the tribunal level, they cannot be a patriot. They cannot be a patriot because the Prime Minister is seeking to do the right thing, not only by Grand Bahamians, Howard, because ultimately the entire country is footing the expense for the operation of the government's contribution to the smooth running of Freeport. Not only Grand Bahamians, the entire Bahamas has been unfairly and unjustly putting that expense. As I said to you during our last conversation hour, the approach was not wrong that the Prime Minister took. He hired as the lead executive in this country, the leading accounting firm globally right now, being Pricewaterhouse. He hired them. And they went and they conducted the investigations based upon the facts of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. And they presented to the government. What the cost is. Over and above, Howard. See, this is where a lot of people missing the big picture and try to conflate and confuse the conversation. Howard, even if you look at the net cost, and the government negotiates based on the net cost, that's $17 million per year over that 5-year period, or whatever the case may be, that the government identified as cost owing to it as liability on behalf of the port. Howard, that is far over and above what the port is paying. And I put it to you also, Howard, it is over and above what the port actually brings in annually in revenue. And so either way, Howard, the government is on the right footing. The only thing that remains to be dealt with as it relates to this matter, Howard, and the Prime Minister has indicated that they have already advanced that aspect of it, is communicating with the partners in this matter, which is
communicating with who?
Try and isolate that cost. The port, Howard. Remember, the arbitrators told the government and the port The Grand Bahama Port is liable. The government just simply needs to sit down with them to work out amicably and reasonably the cost that they are liable for. Price Waterhouse has already done that, Howard. Those costs, Howard, will not change. The basis is a minimum of $357 million.
What I understand
That's
is
the
this.
basis.
What I understand is this, and this is why the AG indicated that he still believes that our base is 357. That's what he says, right? So, but what I understand is this: the arbitrators has indicated that you have to be able to sit down and make a determination of how the calculations would happen, right? How do you quantify what is being owed, right? So both parties have to come to an agreed position to indicate that we identify this as a quality and how we could quantify what is being owed. Once they understand what that formula is, in conjunction with the 1994 agreement and the Hawksbill Creek agreement, they now come up with a formula and say, this is what is owed. And so the government agree, and they agree.
Howard, let me add this. Let me add this for more clarity in what I'm saying, Howard. The submission by Price Waterhouse, Howard, there's nothing no one can do to change that. That is what it is, right? That is cost over and above what the port remits to the government for the government's portion of the taxes. That is cost over and above that, Howard, right? And that total cost is far more than what the port remits to the government at any period. The problem, as the Prime Minister pointed out, Howard, is far beyond what Price Waterhouse submitted. This discussion, Howard, goes far beyond the $357 million. Here's why. The Prime Minister was very clear in what he expressed last night. And I totally appreciated him bringing that information, although I don't know if everybody in the audience got what he was explaining. Listen, Howard. The aspects that gave the Grand Bahama Port Authority their good standing were all the revenue generating aspects of the Port Authority. Those revenue generating aspects of the Port Authority were not licensing fees. They were all of the aspects that they sold off, like the airport, the utility company, and all those other aspects of it. Those aspects are no longer under the control or the remit of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, because they sold them off, Howard.
So that's why they asked it not to be retroactive.
So Howard, it creates a problem. It creates a problem not for the government, It creates a further problem for the port, because the government can still generate the formula based upon what should have been happening. If those
but that's what I'm saying. So the Port Authority has indicated that let's not make this retroactive, because if you make this retroactive, that everything that you didn't pay for, that you would have sold, that you would have had, all this becomes a part of it, and you owe the government even more.
Even more money, Howard.
Even more.
At the end of the day, Howard, as the Prime Minister expressed at that town hall meeting, the Grand Bahama Port Authority didn't only have a responsibility to make the economy thriving for licensees of the port. They had the responsibility to ensure that Grand Bahama, as an entire island, was thriving. That was their responsibility, not just ensuring that their licensees were benefiting from whatever activity they implemented. They had the responsibility to ensure that Grand Bahama was ticking as a whole based upon the activities that took place in Freeport. But because they sold off all of the revenue generating components of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, they are now using licensing fees in a manner that it was never intended to be used. They're using it as a revenue generator. That is why it has become so expensive and so untenable.
Thousands of dollars to get registered. And then they have to give the government
in Freeport. Huh?
Thousands of dollars to get your license or whatever the case may be, right?
And they continue.
But they
to
give the
reassess those
government
fees.
what the government requires. Let's say hypothetically is $100. Okay, if the government require you in your license in the Bahamas for a new business and license in the Bahamas is $100. Okay,
Based upon where you are for your revenue.
Wherever this is a brand new business. Your license is $100. You ain't create no revenue just yet.
It'll be based upon your projected income.
Right?
So it could be much more.
So,
but I'm following the conversation.
But the Grand Bahama Port Authority, if you want to be able to get licensed in their particular space, is $3,000, and this was years ago.
Yes, yes, and that was never the intent.
It's
They have-
$3,000.
they- Howard, listen to me, Howard. Let's open this up a little further, because they recognize after their father passed away, they were not prepared to make the investments necessary to bring those revenue generating components of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement up to scratch, and to ensure that they were firing, or let me not say firing, or to ensure that they were profitable, because they weren't prepared to invest the monies necessary to maintain them and bring them up to the standard to operate in Grand Bahama, on Grand Bahama in Freeport, right? And because they weren't prepared to put the monies in to make them profitable, Howard, they sold them all, which means they escaped or they relinquished themselves of that responsibility, Howard. They relinquished themselves of that responsibility, but they are still holding hostage. They are still holding hostage everyone who lives in Freeport and everyone who lives on the island of Grand Bahama who has not been benefiting since their father passed away, God rest his soul, from what the Hawksbill Creek Agreement intended for everybody to benefit from. How is that fair, Howard?
No.
It is not fair. It is not right. It is not decent. The
Yeah.
government has them on the run right now, Howard.
Yeah.
The government has them on the run, and Howard, understand this. Moving forward, Howard, because they were so gravelicious in approaching the government with their countersuit, and because the arbitrators ruled in favor of the government on 7 of 8 of those components, Howard, they are dead in the water as a result, financially and economically speaking.
Yeah, but this is
They are
why
dead
they
in the
ran
water
ahead.
because they have because now Howard, before the arbitrators ruled, they were able to push back against the government whenever the government tried to extend itself and show its authority. They were still able to push back against the government, and they weren't complying with what the government was asking of them. They were not complying. But now, Howard, if they try that, they have not only what's supposed to exist in law between the government and the Hawksbill Creek agreement, now they have this most recent ruling from the arbitrators, Howard, which has taken complete authority away from them.
Absolutely.
And which has placed them in a volatile position, because
Yeah.
like I said, Howard, one of the most important parts, you can't forget this, Howard, one of the most important parts, the Prime Minister pointed out, they have relinquished themselves of all responsibility that they had by selling off those profit-driven components of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, but they are still collecting all the benefits through the taxes that they continue to reassess upon the licensees of the Freeport of the Freeport
This was
area.
a courageous
And that is
fight.
ridiculous.
I appreciate the
Howard,
comment.
this conversation, I'm ending right here. This conversation regarding the delayed gratification for the government of the Bahamas, this is only just now beginning. The reality is it is just now beginning. And as I said on another show, that open letter to the Prime Minister, that was a two-faced letter, because it should have came before they even had to go to arbitration. The fact that they're offering that now is a clear admission that they recognize they have nothing left to stand on. Thank you for the opportunity.
I appreciate your telephone call. That's Anton, guys, being able to talk with us. But the truth is that the admission is going far beyond that. If we're going to be able to talk about that, from they be able to create a vehicle for the possible purchase of there was the existence, the introduction of a possible vehicle of being able to acquire the assets or acquire the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Y'all have to ask. We got to ask ourselves some questions, man. We got to ask ourselves some questions. We have to ask ourselves some very serious, honest, poignant questions. We got to ask ourselves these questions. I know of at least 3 entities, individuals, who tried to be able to purchase the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Let me say 2, because one is a little bit shaky. I know of at least 2 individuals, entities, that tried to purchase the Grand Bahama Port Authority. I know about the approach. I know about the conversations. I know about these particular things. And I know about the rejection. I know about the rejection. I know about that. All of a sudden, John Boswick, Rupert Roberts, and Rupert Roberts' granddaughter, Wong, say, we want to create a vehicle and we're going to do this and everybody's going to be a part of this and boom, 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 all these things like that. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, and I'm listening out and I'm trying to be able to figure out exactly what's what. And this information is in public domain. There's something a little bit fishy about it. There's something a little bit fishy here. Well, why would we go through all these particular things that talk about the potential of something that would happen in the midst of arbitration? In the midst of arbitration, they're having this conversation about the possibility that could happen. And there's no absolute denial and rejection from the Grand Bahama Port Authority. If they did so, it was done within the confines of niceties. And, we really appreciate the opportunity, guys, but we're not. There's a plan. Even if they relinquish power, they want to be able to retain it in some way. They relinquish this particular position, even if they have to go to liquidation and being able to wind up. There's a plan for the retention of power in this particular space. There's a plan. I'm looking at this, man. This is a difficult conversation to have because you have relationships with people that exist in the Grand Bahama Port Authority, but you also are a Grand Bahamian and you understand the proverbial glass wall, the glass ceiling that existed in the community for you. I live in 8 Mile Rock and I knew all these things and I was articulate my whole life and capable of doing all kind of things. But I guess if we're going to go by biblical principles, I had to come out of my town and out of my country. And that proverbial prophet that knows no success, no honor into his own home, I had to find it elsewhere. I was going to Turks and Caicos to find that. I was rejected. You wouldn't believe how it happened. I ended up coming to Nassau and its arms open wide to receive me. I was grateful. And I made Nassau my home. This could have never happened for me in Grand Bahama. Never. I would have been amidst my brothers and sisters, my friends, my classmates, my cousins, my family, my fellow Grand Bahamians who just sit in this particular position and hope for an opportunity. That's it. That's it. I would have yielded myself to alcoholism in one way or another. That's it. That's it. There's a couple of things I wanted to be able to be very clear with you also. This is sort of an articulation that the government of the Bahamas can be able to create entities within the Port Authority or within arms of the Port Authority to what Michael Pinto would say, we could vote for them, we could do this, we could do that, we could do all these things, we could be able to work with them. That sounds like local government to me. That sounds like local government to me. Is this particular entity that you don't want to be able to eradicate simply because they're a financial generator for things in Grand Bahama? That don't make no sense to me. That doesn't make no sense. What is your fear? Your fear is that the little economic power and wherewithal that we would have had in Grand Bahama as a result of being able to ruffle the feathers of those persons who are content in their position, that they'll get up and leave? I don't understand what you're saying, man. Either the damn thing is right or it's not right. I don't understand what you're saying. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's wrong, we here to say that it's wrong, Prime Minister, it's wrong. But he has never been so right in his life. Never been so right in his life. He has never been so right in his entire life by taking on this. This is what they preempted. Y'all don't want me to get preachy with y'all. When he take the name Brave from his granddad, from his father, he had done nothing to be identified as brave just yet. That was a apostolic prophetic name that they put upon him for such a time as this. Because this was brave. This was brave. This was brave. This was courageous. This wasn't no light work. And listen to me. I cannot say that I don't care how much this costs. I say to you, for the amount of families that had to move out of Grand Bahama, for the deprivation that exists in this place, for the lack of opportunity that exists in Grand Bahama, for the lack of infusion with the expectation through the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, or with the expectation that there's leadership that exists in Grand Bahama for what our expectations are, what our desires are, and that never being met, this is a drop in the bucket for the families who had left Grand Bahama in search of survival elsewhere. We helped to build Grand Bahama. Now we get to leave it. They stay in there in the midst of the rubble whilst they be able to kind of separate it. Oh, this rubble over here. Let's move that there. Let's put a little wall right here. Leave the rubble on this side. And we could still live in harmony once the air don't shift and be able to flow through our window and we could smell the muck and mire that exists on the other side of the wall. That's all that's happening here. You're getting paid from licensees. You're shaving off. You're doing this. You're doing that. Your stakeholders and your shareholders are taken care of. You're content in all these things. The international bazaar is breaking down. All these particular things are happening right under your nose. Right under your nose. You're not eagerly being able to participate. The government to identify persons to be able. You're not participating. The government of the Bahamas, successive administrations had to carry the load, the weight, the burden of being able to find someone to be able to pour into this with. Anton, I get out of here right now. I see you call back. Hold on, Anton, you call back. Anton. Ladies and gentlemen, I see Anton call back. I know he listening. This was a courageous thing for the Prime Minister to do. I don't care what y'all say. I don't care how you feel. I don't know what your politics is. I don't know. I tell you, Michael Pintard had absolutely no choice. If he wanted to stay leader of the Free National Movement, if he wanted to be able to get the support of the 5 constituencies that exist in Grand Bahama, he had no choice but to side with the Port Authority and try to manipulate it and make you feel otherwise. Anton, they're getting ready to leave right here, Go ahead.
Howard.
Yeah.
Howard.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, something I forgot to mention, but I said a portion of it. Right?
2 seconds. Go ahead.
I didn't add in the balance of what I should have, as it relates to the $357 million bill that Pricewaterhouse tabulated on behalf of the government and their exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Howard, listen, man, and it's much more money. It's much more money. If you look further back into history. So that's only a snapshot, really and truly, of what the entire Commonwealth
mm-hmm.
has been putting as it relates to expenses mm-hmm. on behalf of a private entity, right? And I saying that to say this, Howard. There's only one house in this country that carries the burden of accountability and responsibility to the Bahamian people. Only one house, Howard. What house is that, Howard?
House of Assembly.
The House of Assembly. There's only one finance person that carries the burden of accountability and responsibility to the entire population, Bahamian population of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Who is that finance person, Howard?
The Minister of Finance.
Okay.
Which is the Prime Minister.
It'd be a cold day in hell. A cold day in hell if the Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Brave Davis, allows anyone of any private investment nature to influence him badly, foolishly, irresponsibly into allowing them to buy out the Grand Bahama Authority. You would be trading one private family for the next. It would be a foolish decision and make absolutely no sense for the majority, especially when we are the ones who has been putting the expenses for the operation all this while. especially when families have been suffering. Countless families on Grand Bahama, Bahamian families on Grand Bahama, has been suffering as a result of the non-performance of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. We are the ones who have the skin in the game. We are the ones who have the blood, who left our blood on the field, Howard. So it would be completely ill-advised to allow any private group to think they could just swoop in with their business plan, and paper would stand still and let you write anything on it.
Anytime.
With their business plan to try and benefit off of the blood, sweat, and tears of the Bahamian people. It would be ill-advised and foolish and stupid.
I agree with
That's
you.
why I called back to make that statement, Howard.
I appreciate
to put that
it.
on the record.
Thank you,
you
man.
for the opportunity.
No problem. Yeah, but he's only we're saying the same thing, like a synonym, right? Kanye. Right, I just want to be very clear with you as we continue to say this. Michael Pintard, and I just want to be able to say this to you, and then we can wrap up and get out of here. Michael Pintard had to err on the side of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. He didn't have a choice. He didn't have a choice. He didn't have a choice. The relationship is too rich. The support that they would have gotten from the Grand Bahama Port Authority over the years is significant. The relationships that he's built in those particular spaces is significant. There are leadership and members who would have been affiliated with the with the Free National Movement, who would have been working in the Port Authority for a long time. Come on, let's be very, very clear about this. Let's be clear about this. There are people who've worked in the Grand Bahama Port Authority that I care not to call their names. I got every one of their names now. I might as well tell you that. And there are people who are looking for jobs that couldn't find it anywhere else because of their incompetence and incapability that exist in certain places, but their affiliation with the Free National Movement gave them significant access and opportunities that exist in the Port Authority. It's just what it is. You know, say whatever you want to say with me. You couldn't find a job no place else. You make a call to whoever your people is, between your affiliations in your political organization and your affiliations for your fraternity, you found yourself in a job and an opportunity in Grand Bahama Port Authority. That's what it is. Not because of your skill set, not because of anything else. The Grand Bahama Port Authority didn't choose you because you were the best. They chose you because of relationship and affiliation. The Free National Movement has benefited significantly based upon a relationship that continues to be able to thrive in that organization. They've done well. They've done well. They've done well in being able to support them in one way or another and providing them an opportunity to be able to take care of themselves and their families. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The Grand Bahama Port Authority chooses who they desire to be able to work with and who they desire to work for them. That's it. We can't say anything about it. That's just what it is. They make that decision. That's not on them. They made the decision. That's on them, and we can't do anything about it. Let's be very clear about this now. Let's be clear about this. The relationship and the relentless benefits that continue to be able to pour into either directly or indirectly to the Free National Movement from the Grand Bahama Port Authority, none of them could go against the Port Authority. None. But for those of us who are just watching the proverbial pink building and watching prices continue to soar and watching the city around us erode and watching buildings that is just falling down and bricks falling on top of bricks and them identifying someone to be able to paint a nice mural there. That'll be nice. Let's put a mural there. And you watching these particular things and there's no occupation, there's no opportunity, there's no bustling city. There is just sort of a modification, and all we are in Grand Bahama is in a relentless holding pattern. That's it. You're in a holding pattern. Under your administration, you couldn't get the post office open in West Grand Bahama or the government building complex open in West Grand Bahama. You couldn't get the little school open that had been there sitting there for the longest time. You couldn't get those things open. You haven't done anything, not for West Grand Bahama. Rubble that existed on the side of the road from 2004 still there. You still didn't been able to identify what it can take you for you to be able to put solar lights to run all the way down to West End. That ain't something that you had to be able to burden the taxpayers with as it relates to being able to use current or power on a day-to-day basis. You haven't thought about any of those things in your membership capacity, in your MP capacity. Nothing. You haven't done so. You haven't done anything as it relates to being able to provide an answer for Grand Bahama in any way. But you chose to err on the side of the Port Authority. What is being said here for you not to know that this is the government of the Bahamas, which are the defense, and being able to speak on behalf of the people of the Bahamas? That's it. Their representation in this aspect, in this space, for the people of the Bahamas. That's what they are. That's all this is. Representation for the people of the Bahamas. That's it. Difficulty to consume that, to adjust with that, and to be able to take that. Free National Movement leader Michael Pintard said yesterday that the Free National Movement government would collect an outstanding funds, any outstanding funds owed to the government, even if it is the Grand Bahama Port Authority. As much as you try to be able to articulate and keep yourself on this sort of a balancing beam between your relationship with the Grand Bahama Port Authority, both personally and from a governmental standpoint with your organization, and being able to lean on the side of the Bahamian people, you have to choose ye this day who you will serve. You have to. And this agitation, none of this agitation could mean one more vote for Prime Minister Brave Davis in Grand Bahama. He knows that. He's not fooled. He knows that. All the agitation, he could pull the port down with his hand. That don't mean a damn thing to Grand Bahamians who can vote FNM. That don't mean nothing to them. Listen to me. He could be Samson and yuck one corner to the next corner. The pillars that stand up in front of a Port Authority, and I think it come falling down. Grand Bahamian people don't care, but that they voting FNM. Nothing he did was for political brownie points. Nothing. Nothing. I don't care how much people boo Pintard, they voting FNM. Most of them. But what the Prime Minister did was absolutely courageous and undeniably required. Essential. Even if you didn't understand it. Take your time, understand it. This has nothing to do with politics. This has everything to do with our dignity that has been stolen from us. Our dignity. And the pride that you so enjoyed and you loved, that has been stolen from us. The way that you carried yourself, the switch in your hips, the stride in your step, how your head is elevated as you walk, to know that you can take care of yourself. By your labor, by the sweat of your brow, you will eat bread. That you don't have to beg nobody for nothing. That dignity that we had as Grand Bahamians from east to west has been stolen from us. You know how much time I meet my friends and family and cousins in the States. When I first started talking to my wife and cutting up with her and they like her and going to Cuba, may come back home, me and my mommy going away. They going away. We meeting in JCPenney. I say, "Oh, girl, I didn't know you was, hey, what's up, girl?" Get a little squeeze, gone. Do you know how much we had access and opportunity? We was traveling. None of that. Some of these Grand Bahamian people don't even know where their passport is right now. Passport is where you put me. They probably don't even know where their driver's license is. They broke. They ain't got it. And there's an opportunity to be able to get it. We got to get it. And nothing your relationship could do to be able, while you're taking care of you and your family, Grand Bahama needs more. And any organization that wants to be able to get in there has to understand that. Now, it may never be as it was before, but I can tell you one thing. We ain't never going back to a position where we're subservient anymore. It's a different day, a different age, a different time, and it's a required position that the soul of Grand Bahama be reinstated. And sometimes you either have to bend to the rules and regulations, or because of your stiff-necked posture, you will be broken. How I talking? Amen? Praise God. That's the show today, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for being able to tune in with us. Thank you for the foundation. Like I said to you, there's no show this evening for the rundown on ZNS. You're going to catch me out tomorrow as we continue to be able to talk. We can do a nice little round table and have a great conversation with a few folks to be able to come in and we can talk a little bit politics. So we're going to have a good time. You guys have a great day, man. I want to thank you so much for being able to tune in with us. I'm going to see you tomorrow. God spare our lives right here on The Foundation. Have a great day, guys. Thanks so much.
I have a dream where the powerful and the powerless will sit at the same table, where the haves will see the have-nots, not as burdens, but as brothers, where class will not divide us, but conviction will unite us. I have a dream that the oligarchs will remember we must all eat, that the brown-faced neo-colonialists will remember who they are and whose they are. I have a dream that fraternities will build beyond internal architecture into a national bond, that the walls of design will give way to the bridges of brotherhood, not a fraternity of symbol, but a brotherhood of substance. I have a dream that we remain focused, that we stay in our conviction and remain fearless, that we double down, fortified, to return this Bahama land to the foundation.